Okay, I will start recording the meeting. And I'll share the screen. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Okay, let's call this meeting to order then. And at this point, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have a flag?
Yes, we do.
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we don't need a roll call.
Ratan Chaudhary. Absent. Kai Haas. Absent. Commissioner Bao.
Present.
Commissioner Alcorn.
Present.
Commissioner Rajni Nair.
Present.
Commissioner Lay.
Present.
Okay, do we have any alternates?
Yes, we have Commissioner Kevin Lay.
Okay. How do we deal with that? Just say welcome to the table, or what?
Yes, so the Commissioner Lay is seated as a voting member for this meeting.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I hear any comments on the agenda, or do I hear a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All favored?
Aye.
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 Okay, so
Question, do we need to do this
Say the name.
one
Yes,
person at a time, or can we just do a voice vote?
we have to do a roll call,
Okay.
Commissioner. So the first was the Commissioner Nair motion. And who was the second? I'm sorry.
Aye, second.
Okay. Commissioner Lay was second. I will do a roll call. Commissioner Bao
Aye.
and Commissioner Alcorn.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes, Chair, the Commissioner.
All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting. Any comments or corrections? Seeing none, motion to approve.
Second.
A second.
Commissioner Nair.
Roll call.
Commissioner Bao,
Aye.
Commissioner Lay.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes, Commissioner.
Okay, and then next item is the public forum. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to make a statement on the public forum?
I believe we don't have anyone at this moment. Actually, sorry, we have, sorry, Commissioner, we have one public. Would you like me to start the counter? We can do 2 minutes or 3 minutes typically.
All right, who's making the announcement?
I will allow the public to speak.
Thank you.
Can you
Hello.
please unmute yourself before you speak?
Thank you very much, Daniel. I want to thank you, the Science, Technology and Innovation Commission, for the opportunity to speak, and I wanted to also let the entire commission know about the upcoming technological changes and improvements that's coming over as a part of California legislation. Recently, it has been brought to the California legislature about the improvements that are required to be made in order for the law enforcement agency and as well as the California Council on Science and Technology to introduce the bills. As a part of Science, Innovation, and Technology, AB 573 that has been introduced for California Council on Science and Technology for the fellows to be established. The act allows the legislator as well as the policymakers to implement the Science and Technology Board of Structure Committee for the state, county, and the city jurisdiction, as well as it allows the facial recognition bill to be introduced in the city. Also, the facial recognition bill requires a law enforcement agency to implement certain technology to be utilized by the law enforcement officer within the city, county, and state jurisdiction. There is a co-aligned Senate Bill 752. There is a California Master Plan to be technology to be developed as well. So I wanted to let Science, Innovation, and Technology Commission to know to develop a master technology plan for the city of Milpitas. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Alcorn, that was the last public today, and Vice Chair Haas joined us. So I believe Vice Chair will conduct the meeting from this point on.
Works for me.
Thank you. Vice Chair Haas, you are muted, I believe.
There we are. I don't
Vice
even
Chair?
have the agenda in front of me, so I'm not sure what to do next.
Sure, Vice Chair. So we are at item number 7. We just completed the item number 7. We're
Okay.
at item number 8.
So under announcements, we have one commissioner announcement from Mr. Alcorn.
Okay, and I'm going to start sharing my screen. Hang on, just give me 1 minute here. Okay, so I volunteered to talk about what I do for work, and what I do for work is I test semiconductors. So a quick definition ahead of time. A conductor conducts electricity, an insulator blocks electricity, but a semiconductor conducts or blocks selectively. Here's an example of a semiconductor wafer, and also an example of a semiconductor wafer in a typical 25 wafer lot. It's pretty hard to get a single wafer ordered from a foundry these days, so almost all wafer orders come in 25 wafer lots. Unless you're on an engineering lot, then sometimes you go as little as 3, but 25 is a production run. On the same page, we're showing the way to test a semiconductor while it's still on the wafer. So if you look and you see the lines, I don't know if my cursor is going to show or not, but if you see the lines going diagonally and then the opposite, each one of those lines is called a scribe line, and the wafer gets diced up into individual die along these scribe lines. So if we look at this one, it's a 300 millimeter or 12-inch wafer, and so probably got about somewhere between 500 and 700 die on this wafer after you decide to dice it. But a lot of times what we like to do is we like to actually test it before we dice it. So what we'll do is, in a manual situation, we have these little probes that come down onto the die. And in a fully automated setup, there's the machine will actually pick the wafer out of a boat, put it under the probe needles, and then connect it to the tester. Next slide is looking at the actual tester itself. So the tester, this particular one is made by Advantest. It's called the 93,000 or 93K. And you can see that there's various sizes of test heads. And so The smallest test head can fit 8 cards, the next one 16 cards, 32 cards, 64 cards. So then what's on a card? Well, what's on a card is what we call a pin electronic. And the pin electronic, in this case, works in either an AC or a DC fashion. AC, or digital, is to simulate or stimulate and capture AC waveforms. So if we follow the picture here, you can see that right over here, there's this thing called a driver. And a driver, you can program it with high and low voltage levels. It then has a 50 ohm load built into it. It has a relay that allows you to connect it to the pin. And finally, you make it out to the pin and you can generate a waveform that gets applied to the part. Could be clock, could be data, could be a static control signal. On the receive side, the waveform will come back down that same line and then go into comparators to which we can set the thresholds on. And so in this case, what we're seeing is we're seeing a drive level of 2.25 volts and a low level and a 2.5 volt high level. And then on the compare side, we see we're seeing a compare voltage of 2.25, and to be lower than that to be considered a low, and above 2.5 to be considered a high. And so another name for high and low is 1 and 0. Outside here of this pin electronic, you'll see what we call the vector memory. And the vector memory has all of the information used to stimulate the part and compare it against what the part should be putting out. The other half of this card deals with DC testing. And DC testing allows us to force or measure DC voltage or current. And it happens over here on the right side. And it says this thing called a parametric measurement unit, or PMU. And then it's called a pin PMU because there's one of them for every pin that you have digital. But then there's a high precision one that allows you to connect across 16 instruments or 16 channels and measure with higher accuracy. So we can force a voltage. Say we want to force a static voltage of, pick a number, 2 volts, 3 volts. We can measure a voltage. We can then switch the PMU over to the opposite mode and we can force a current. And typically you force a current when you want to look at the input diode. And so what you'll get is you'll force a current into the diode, and if the current is high enough, it'll cross a threshold and the voltage on the output will be stable at about somewhere between 0.6 and 0.7, 0.8 volts. Now there's several more cards that go into the tester. There's a power supply card that supplies much higher current than the pin electronic can supply. There is analog cards in case you want to measure something that's non-digital but still a waveform. And then there are various timing and other specialized cards that go into the test head. So this is what goes into the test head, and you'll have as few as one, maybe as many as 64 of these in a test head, depending on what the configuration of the tester is. So you can go from a very small chip with, say, 3 or 4 inputs and a couple outputs to pins with chips with thousands of inputs and thousands of outputs. And then finally, one last thing just to talk a little about it. This is what we call one of the tools in the tester, and this is called the timing diagram, and it's very similar to an oscilloscope. So you have the waveforms you received from the part called receive waveforms in black. Then the drive waveforms are what's going out of the tester to the part. The output or the receive waveforms, you have the ability to view them in 3 different modes. One of them is just when you decide to look at the waveform, is it high or low? We call this a standard mode. Then we have a high definition mode or high resolution mode where you actually move this edge looking for when it transitions from low to high. And finally, the third thing is we actually have the ability to draw a full oscilloscope style waveform that you can use to see the overshoot, undershoot, and so on of the waveform. And the last thing you do after you've done all your debug and all your setup is you'll put it into a flow. And sorry I couldn't find a picture of the flow. I wanted to show that, but a typical flow would be test connectivity to make sure the device is connected, turn on the power and make sure the device isn't shorted out, run some basic functional patterns, run some DC measurements, possibly run some AC measurements, analog measurements. And then we have this tool or this particular type of test called scan, which allows you to basically disassemble the chip and run it, or basically go into the part and test all of the different flip-flops one at a time in order to make sure that functionally each one of the switches is actually going to switch. So that's a very quick overview. I'd be happy to answer any questions or go into more detail, or if not, I'll let the chair or vice chair take control back.
So you said you have one card per chip?
Would you clarify what a part is? A chip.
Oh. So what on the wafer, you got like 64 chips on there.
It could be hundreds, yeah.
Oh. So then one card would test one chip at a time and then multiply, repeated by however hundreds of chips on there, or
that was the old way of doing it. The new way to do it is to test either 4, 8, or 16 simultaneously. Yep.
I see.
Parallel processing.
Yep, parallel test, definitely. Any other questions? Alrighty.
Apparently not. Meanwhile, back on the agenda.
All right, let me stop sharing.
Okay. Well, that's us, but
Chair
Actually-
Haas, I did have one more announcement, if I
Okay, there
can.
we go.
go for it.
So I just wanted to let the commission know, and then also just members of the public, I'll be stepping down from the commission, just mainly because I'm moving out of Milpitas. So
I would do it.
So, but it was really truly a great honor and a great opportunity to work on the community Wi-Fi project.
Sigh. Okay, thank you. And farewell.
You mean next year?
Starting next month,
Like immediately, well, at the end of the meeting.
at the end of this meeting.
Yeah, sigh.
Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
But
There-
I did talk with Daniel if I could still volunteer. Definitely, it's a great project. So
Sure.
happy to support.
Yeah, Rajani and I are still going to be working together on the Wi-Fi project.
Cool.
Right.
Meanwhile, the mayor and council had better start filling vacancies.
Will you be dialing in as a member of the public?
I hear you, Vice Chair. I hear you. I'll take a moment here to ask if any commissioners here have any folks they may know here in the city of Milpitas. I'll be happy to appoint folks and move folks up from alternate to voting, actually, as well. And so we got to do this together. Thank you.
Oh, cool. So we come to item 9, business items. 9A is
I apologize, Commissioner Haas.
Yeah.
Can we do a receipt and file for item number 8A?
Oh, good point. All in favor of note, receipt, and file?
And we need the motion and the second. And
I
then
can move it, can't I?
Yes, you can.
Well, I'll move it. Somebody should second it.
Second.
Thank you. So that takes care
And
of that.
I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Bao,
Aye.
Commissioner Alcorn,
Aye.
Commissioner Nair.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes. Vice Chair.
Now, do I actually have a vote if I wasn't here at the outset and an alternate stepped in for me?
I believe you can still vote. You're
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let you be the referee. Can we get to business items 9A? The
Yes.
911 CAD computer aided dispatch upgrade?
Yes. I will present
Good.
for that one. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, good evening, commissioners. As you know, I'm Daniel Nam. I'm an IT manager overseeing the city's IT operations team. Our team is responsible for new systems implementation, managing Office 365 cloud products, the email systems, the user accounts, and server maintenance support and backups, among other responsibilities. such as maintaining our 911 computer-aided dispatch system used by the police and the fire department. As you're aware, we have successfully completed the 911 CAS system upgrade project at the end of April 2021, just last month, and I would like to provide you a brief update this evening. So I'll start with providing you with a little bit of history. So the city acquired, the VisiCAD product from Tritech Software Systems based in San Diego in June of 2005. So the product was renamed since then to Enterprise CAD, and the Tritech Software Systems has merged with several other companies, and now they've become a larger Central Square Technologies in 2018. So as you can see, we had the system for just over 15 years, and we have, of course, upgraded several times since the initial acquisition. The last major upgrade was completed just a few weeks ago. And the scope of the project included replacing a significant portion of our hardware, including all servers and the workstations that the dispatchers use when dispatching. It also included upgrading operating systems on servers and mobile computers, and of course, the CAS system itself. I'll provide you a quick overview of the server hardware changes. And virtual machines, and most of you are probably already familiar, virtual machines technologies have become a standard in the industry for easier maintenance and efficient allocation of hardware. So we started using the VM technology since the beginning of when this technology started becoming available to the public, and roughly around 2005, 2006. So we started using it quite some time ago, and now the majority of the city's systems use the VM technology. So in 2019, the city acquired a new system called the Hyperconverged Infrastructure, also known as HCI platform, from a company called Scale Computing. And also in 2020, we purchased another cluster from a company called Nutanix. The benefits of the HCI includes reduced total cost of ownership, ability to maximize the use of purchased hardware, and being able to take advantage of flexibility and the reliability the platform offers. So now the performance and reliability. The hardware used in HCI is typically spec'd to have much higher performance than typical servers that we used to get. And the way the VMs are managed within the platform inherently offer additional reliability over traditional server setup and efficiency. Storage, for example, the platform manages the storage in an aggregated manner from all nodes in the cluster, so that the data is duplicated across the cluster for redundancy purposes, and any duplicate data is stored more efficiently. It's called a deduplication, and resulting in hardware required to achieve the similar, less hardware required to achieve the similar capacity that we need. And scalability, the limit of how many nodes you can have in the cluster can vary depending on the specific HCI and how it is implemented, but many offer unlimited scalability by just being able to add a node when the needs increase. Ease of management. Typically, these platforms offer centralized management with detailed performance and usage statistics, and also offers immediate notifications if there are any issues. And backup-wise, integrated, they're actually tightly integrated, but often third-party backup solutions. They also simplify the backup and recovery of all systems from a single management console. So this slide is specific to one of our two clusters. This particular cluster consists of 3 nodes at this time. So each node includes dual 10 gigabit network interfaces, dual 600 gigabyte flash drive, dual 4 terabyte SAS drives, 384 gigabytes of RAM, and dual Xeon processor with 10 cores per processor. So we have total of 60 cores per processor. 60 cores in the entire cluster. And we also, of course, have the dual power supplies, and of course, they are plugged into individual circuits. So if the circuit fails, our systems are still functioning without downtime. So this particular cluster has a total capacity of 132 gigahertz and just over a 1.1 terabyte RAM and 12 storage disks. And in this graphic, you can see that we have 3 hosts, and 3 hosts have dual network connectivities. And currently, at the time when this photo was taken, a screenshot was taken rather, it was running 17 virtual machines at the time. So we can focus on just one of the nodes. This is specific to one of our cluster again, but we can focus on just one node on the far left side there. As you can see, each node has their own storage. The spinning disks for a lower tier and sequential data, and also has faster flash drives for higher tier and random access data. So also you can see the normal x86 hardware. On top of that, there is a hypervisor running that manages and allow the VM technologies. This can vary depending on the implementation, but some, like in this case, have a controller VM. It's depicted in the diagram with CVM, the blue square there. Handles all the data reading and writing activities, distributing data, communicating with other CVMs in the cluster for failover activities across the cluster. Intelligent data tiering. So as I mentioned earlier, each node has a 2-tier data, hot data and cold data, so faster flash drive and the spinning hard drive. And it also handles the deduplication as well. So, and it also uses a MapReduce method. So real quick, the MapReduce is basically you are dividing all of the data chunks and you are pairing with the key value pairs. And if there are duplicate pairs, then it doesn't have to store that same data multiple times. So, and of course, all of this happens without any user intervention, and the hypervisor and the operating system that's running on this HCI handles all of that. So this is just a management interface of one of our scale computing cluster. So as you can see, you see a 3. This is actually a generic screen, so we didn't want to have a lot of the details of our systems in a public meeting that's recorded and broadcasted. So this is a generic screen, but in this case, you have 3 nodes here as well, and each node are responsible for running these VMs, and the operating system handles distributing this data. So in this particular case, this node failed, but all of the VMs that's running in this particular cluster are still running without downtime. This is a management interface for another cluster that we have, Nutanix cluster. So we are currently running our public safety workloads off of Nutanix and general city workloads on Scales cluster. So we don't typically make large changes to the CAD system, 911 CAD system, for a good reason. So our highest priority is reliability of this system for obvious reasons. And these large systems typically have several dependencies, whether it's a server version or the architecture requirement or database version or client operating systems and so on. So sometimes we make a decision to stay with a stable configuration than getting the latest and the newest version of software out there. So in this case, during our last major hardware upgrade, 64-bit architecture was not approved by the CAD software vendor. So we've been with the 32-bit. It was a very reliable system. But now during this upgrade, we of course moved over to the 64-bit architecture with the latest operating system and database engine that are approved and proven to be reliable. In the past, Our virtual machines were running on a traditional HP hardware and running a Microsoft Hyper-V. They are a very reliable platform too, but now they are on a HCI platform on Nutanix. We also replaced dispatch workstations. We have total of 6 positions in our comm center, and they are equipped with new Intel workstations paired with 2 49-inch super wide high resolution monitors, as you can see in the picture. And our dispatchers are trained and always prepared and ready for manual dispatching during outages. So there are no impact on services during these upgrade activities. So this upgrade involved a total of 16 servers. Due to the software dependencies that, as I mentioned earlier, required by the vendor, we had to take a few steps to get to where we are today. First, we migrated Windows to Windows Server 2016, along with the architecture change at the time. And we operated on that platform for a week. Then we migrated over to the Microsoft Windows Server 2019, and ultimately resulting in 7 production servers at completion. Our mobile computers and our police vehicles and fire vehicles have been upgraded to Windows 10. There were no hardware changes, but the operating systems have been upgraded. And of course, CAD system version to the latest year 2020 version. So in addition to keeping up with the versions the CAD vendor provides and replacing aged hardware, no matter what system we go with, the hardware will age and we have to replace them, right? But there are several advantages such as increased performance and security. So there were several advantages and improvements that we noticed. Sizable performance were observed with in some of the critical functions as much as 75%. So as for security benefits, there's inherent security benefit that comes with the Linux-based HCI platforms, but we are now also shipping our backup data to the CGIS compliant cloud storage provider to further ensure recoverability. So in summary, the upgrade planning started with the hardware procurement process in early 2020. After the installation and necessary hardware burn-in period, the upgrade started in April of this year, and the project was completed as scheduled on April 27th, and all functionalities have been returned on that day. The upgrade, this particular upgrade is by far the most significant changes and improvements we made since the initial acquisition in 2006. This project truly required effective collaboration amongst all the departments involved and our staff. And we also took this opportunity to reevaluate the priorities. As you know, the cybersecurity concerns are growing and it's never going to go away. We placed additional focus on ransomware protection and recovery to prepare for these ongoing threats. As I presented, we are now also leveraging cloud storage in addition to traditional backup methods, so we can recover the system in a disaster situation. And that concludes my presentation, and I hope you found this presentation informative and learned a little bit more about our 911 CAD system. And it was a big project. We are very proud to successfully accomplish the upgrade. If you have any feedback or any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Well, I've got a question. As a former employee of Tandem Computers and their fail-safe, I'm wondering how, when one node that's chugging along fails, how the people at the other end the devices at the other end are handled. Is there some backup process running in the background, or does it just fail over?
So it actually fails over. So when you create a VM, so the hypervisor and the operating systems under it, they actually create another VM on another node.
Gotcha.
So they are ready to fire up when one of the CVMs communicate to the other CVM saying that, hey, I lost this VM, or CVM is no longer reachable. All those scenarios are covered within their algorithm. And every company does it slightly differently, but generally the VMs are duplicated into other nodes.
Mhm.
Kind of like a storage RAID type of concept.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions?
In terms of the 911 operators, um, how visually, how does the look and feel of the new system compared to the old one?
Very good question. So the functionalities over time change, and the new features gets added on, and sometimes the vendor change the way things look, and sometimes we can customize the way certain screen looks. But in most cases, because of it also has a training component to it, so we try to keep the look and feel as close to the previous version as possible. I don't know if that answers the question for you, Commissioner.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think the last time that we were there at the center, my favorite screen was the one where it tracked the location of all the units in the field.
Yeah.
And we all wish that we had something like that.
You wish that you have a 49-inch ultra-wide monitor, Commissioner. That looks awesome.
Yeah, no,
Daniel,
that tracks all the police cars.
Daniel, looking from the perspective of the dispatcher, I mean, they still need to log into multiple databases and things like that, right, to get access to information, or does that not really matter in this particular scenario?
So our CAD system is, let me step back for a second there. So every agency, of course, we try to keep a centralized single login, everything in one software, but that's typically very difficult to achieve. So of course, for example, our 911 phone system is a completely separate system, and it's actually provided by AT&T. And our CAS system is provided by Central Square. And although during the implementation process, we integrate them as much as possible. So for example, if you would call 911 within the city of Milpitas, the phone system will actually send the caller information or potentially address information or GPS coordinates of the phone to our 911 CAS system, which will automatically enter in for the dispatchers the moment they pick it up. So those interfaces are there, but we do have to work with several different products. Welcome.
Okay. That's one of the items. Oh, we should note receipt and file, right?
Yes.
I move that we note receipt and file.
A second.
Second.
Okay, you got that.
Okay, so that was the
9A, we go to 9B. Work plan updates.
Commissioner. We have to do a quick roll call, please.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, Commissioner Bao for item number 9A.
Aye.
Commissioner Nair.
Aye.
Commissioner Lay.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, Vice Chair.
Okay, now we completed that new exercise. We go on to work plan updates. Any update from the digital inclusion strategy?
Currently, none at this time, but I did get an email from Daniel. So we want to issue a survey. That's our next step, just to understand some of the feedback from the community. So we'll work with city staff to get the survey issued. And Commissioner Lee, I don't know if you want to add anything more.
Nope.
Okay, goal number 2 would be a 5G implementation status with Anbao and me, and I've got nothing, so over to Anbao.
Right, no update for this week.
Okay. odor sensors. Once again, we've been getting mail in the next door about the odors from the dump. So Alcorn is here, Chowdhury is not. What do we got?
I haven't had a chance to work on this since the last meeting, and I will commit to making a connection with Commissioner Chowdhury before our next meeting and have something to report.
Good plan. And traffic congestion, Chowdhury and Nair. So what does Ms. Nair have to say?
I haven't had a chance to connect with Chair Chowdhury.
Will you commit to
Okay.
having something by next meeting?
If I'm allowed to be on the commission, sure.
Well, maybe Chowdhury can bring it to the next meeting.
Yes.
He's the only empowered one. You're just a volunteer. And lastly, the IT technology project on Bow and A. Alcorn. Anything?
No, nothing else other than the presentation that Daniel just made.
Okay. Which wraps up 9B, discussion of future items. What's in the pipeline there?
Vice Chair, could we do a motion? And
Oh, I
second?
guess. Yeah, why not? I would move to note receipt and file 9B.
Okay,
Second.
I second. Oh,
Second was
And-
Commissioner Alcorn,
Alcorn. Yeah.
and I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Bao,
Aye.
Commissioner Nair,
Aye.
Commissioner Lay.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, Vice Chair.
Do we have a future?
We do not have any items. This is a forum where any commissioners can suggest next future items.
I thought we were going to do presentations of each of the commissioners, what they do, similar to what Commissioner Alcorn did. And I forget who the next one was.
I think
I
the
think
chair
Commissioner Chowdhury was the next one.
Yep. And then I'll do the one for July.
Okay, somebody better remind Chowdhury that he is up next.
I will, Vice Chair.
Good deal, thank you. Liaison reports. Since I don't think we have to take any votes on the future items. Mr. Mayor,
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much.
there he is.
Just a really informational meeting for me today, at least.
Mhm.
I appreciate Commissioner Alcorn's semiconductor testing presentation. I know there's a lot going on in that industry as of now, and so that was pretty neat. I don't come from the science or technology field, and so I really just sit back and listen to the experts. And here in Silicon Valley, Milpitas, we have just an awesome array of commissioners here with our IT department as well. I just hope everybody's enjoying this. Certainly, I enjoy every moment in City Hall. Anytime there's a dais around, and one thing I like to share with every commission I'm a part of is, there's a lot more than to just make a motion and second and to vote on things. I encourage each person here, if you haven't already, to do a little search, any search engine you choose, to catch up on the parliamentary procedures and the Robert's rules. This certainly is a dais that you're a part of, and there's always tons of motions you can make. Have fun with it. Motion of information, motion, pardon me, you can do points as well, points of inquiry, points of information. If the meeting is going long, sometimes they do, not today, but there's always a motion to limit discussion, and just really make the most out of your time here on the dais. It's one thing I'm going around town sharing with folks. The effectiveness and efficiency of each meeting is really in each person's hands. And so just a little fun tidbit I'm sharing with folks. We want to be a city, and even on the school board, everybody, that where if anybody's tuning in, our meetings are in order. So this one is certainly in order. Just a great time. And one more thing, we do have some vacancies here on the commission. I'm working with our city clerk, Wendy Wood, our new city clerk. If you haven't said hi to the new city clerk, please do. I'm sure you've been getting emails from her. and we're working on filling in a lot of the commission seats across the whole city. And if you, your spouse, relatives, neighbors, friends, folks you know around town, you think they'd be interested in serving on a commission, please send them my way. I'll be happy to appoint them. And once things open up June 15th, according to higher governments, we're going to have a luncheon and everybody's going to be there. And we're really going to recognize not just our commissioners, but the work we're doing and have a great meal. Hopefully get some barbecue out there maybe this time. And just want to make sure that your experience here in the city of Milpitas is one that is fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does city staff have anything to report?
I believe Mike is present.
And muted?
Yeah, Mike, are you present? Yeah, he may stepped away. So we can provide any additional staff report if we have any. And I believe all of the commissioners' photos have been posted on the city's website. So please take a look, and if you'd like to change it, please let us know and we'll get that posted.
Okay, which brings us to the possibility of adjournment. Would somebody like to move to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second it,
Second.
just to be different.
So I'll
Roll
do
call.
the roll call. Commissioner Alcorn,
Aye.
Commissioner Nair,
Aye.
Commissioner Lake.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, Vice Chair.
We stand adjourned.
Daniel, we have to motion and second item number 11 also, license reports.
We don't.
Okay,
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
everyone. Have a good evening.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right.
thank you, everybody.
thank you.
See you
Great
next
working with
time.
all of
All right.
you. Okay.
Bye.